If you're watching this video, it implies that you have recently watched me perform my newest original song, I Wasn't Always the Person Who I Would Become. So this is a song I've actually, in my little note journal here, I've been wanting to write a song for quite a while about cancel culture. So this song finally came together. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I went to go see Counting Crows play in Nashville. And there's very much a Bob Dylan influence in their music and even in their opening acts. And I thought, I'd like to write a tune that makes me think a little bit of Bob Dylan. So the melody and the guitar, fairly simple, playing around with some minor chords from other keys. To me, that was Bob Dylan. So I went ahead, wrote this song. Specifically note that nowhere in the song do I actually say cancel culture, but it definitely is a song about cancel culture. So here's the lyrics, starting out with the chorus as most of my songs do instead of a verse. I wasn't always the person who I would become. And by the way, I can't take credit for that line. I was watching Bill Maher on his show, and he was talking about cancel culture, and that's where I got that line from. That was very clever. It wasn't that long ago I was still young and dumb. How far do they get to go back and dig up the dirt? It's a guessing game as we try to behave until the next debut of the new taboo. And that's the thing. We can't know right now in 2021 what's going to be taboo a year from now or 5 years. We can try to guess, but we're just trying to live our lives now. We do the best we can. Who knows what's going to be taboo in the future that could be held against us now? And who knows what stupid thing we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago that will surface on the internet? And I would think, I said that? I believe that? I can't believe that. That's such poor taste. So moving on to the verse here, it kind of taps into that a little bit. You could say I missed the way things were. There used to be some grace for a learning curve. Here's to our rise and our fall. History makes fools of us all. Perhaps now more than ever before. And going on to the second verse. Comedy doesn't age well. When you try to get close without crossing the line, it's a recipe for a mess, a setup to fail the test when you live on the wrong side of time. This is an example that happened just this morning. I was reading an article about Miss Piggy. I guess she's going to be next to be canceled. And you think, what? Well, just think of Pepe Le Pew. You know, he didn't make it to the new Space Jam movie. You know, as obviously what Pepe Le Pew is known for won't fly today. Well, Miss Piggy kind of treated Kermit the same way. So now she's on the chopping block. I don't mean that in a graphic way like bacon or anything. But ultimately, yes. Even the Three's Company sitcom, Mrs. Roper, was the same way to her husband. Who knows? But ultimately, that's what we're looking at. There's some examples that I'm seeing even today. And then I close with a bridge saying, we are being watched, but we have the right to remain silent. And yes, I'm borrowing from the Miranda Act on this one here. Anything we've said can and will be held against us in social media. So there you go. There's the whole lyrics to the song. And for me as a songwriter, and even as I make videos, it's all about being red pill, which means instead of seeing myself as a victim, how can I think, when things happen, how can I take control of it, take responsibility for myself? And so for this song, it's a matter of knowing that's a little bit out of our control to some degree, but ultimately the best we can do is basically be very in tune to what's going on as far as making sure that no groups of people are being discriminated against or seen as less of people. You know, it's interesting because now I still don't think we're at the point where making fun of homeless people is still taboo yet. I don't think we're there yet. We still see it in movies. People can make fun of homeless people and it's still okay. Another thing, the way we treat elderly people, the concept of putting them in nursing homes, I've heard that that's going to be changing, that'll be a new too. I can't know. This is just speculation. But in the same way 20 years ago, we wouldn't have known certain things wouldn't work as they do now. And I think that's interesting. But this is only heightened by the fact that now social media brings all the history up from the dirt that wasn't necessarily seen as a bad thing. Closing note, so as a kid, I was like 4 years old My favorite show is Dukes of Hazzard. I had the car, I had the action figures. I'm always making them fly over the thing. Did I know anything about a Confederate flag back then? No, I was a 4-year-old boy playing with a car and these two guys jumping over ravines. I also listened to records. We had a record player, Alabama, the band from my hometown, Fort Payne. A couple of their records, on the album cover, it has a Confederate flag on it. That's all lost on me. And even for me, most of my life, I personally didn't see the Confederate flag as racist because I didn't know that. I wasn't woke to that concept yet. No one had told me that. For me, a Confederate flag was just the flag of the South. If you're proud to be from the South, that's all it meant. By the time I got to college, I got a better understanding of, okay, to a lot of people, this is offensive, and now I understand why. But I didn't always know. So, closing thought and title of the song, I wasn't always the person I would become. So it seems, could it really be that fair to everyone that we're being judged on a lesser version of ourselves? Ultimately, aren't we all trying to evolve and all trying to become better people? But if we're judged on who we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm so grateful that so much of me being in high school and even in college wasn't on the internet. It makes me wonder what it's like for younger people who their whole lives are on the internet, especially what they volunteered before certain things became part of cancel culture. So there you go. There's my song about it. It's something to be mindful of. We can try our best not to get canceled in the future based on how we're acting now. But the rules will change. They'll always change. Like I said in the verse, comedy doesn't age well. Comedy is the worst because comedy is about getting right up to a line without crossing it. That's funny. Being edgy is funny. But often, those things that are edgy now become even worse in the future. And what's funny too is we can look at things that used to be edgy and they're not edgy at all. Even language itself. The F word is not that big of a deal like it used to be. But now we're looking at certain words that would be used for certain people, certain groups of people, and now you can't say it. You can even watch Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from the late 80s. And they have a different F word that's not allowed anymore. But back then, it was in a PG-rated movie. So we can even see how that's changed. How the F word itself, depending on what F word we're talking about, but the 4-letter one we're thinking of, it doesn't quite hold the weight that it used to. But the other version of the F word, the one that is used to describe a certain minority of people, that one is the real F word that'll get you somewhere in a bad place. That's interesting, it's fascinating, and it's always evolving. So I thought, let me go ahead and write a song about it. What are your thoughts? Right here.